recording. Hello, Studio 108 Seekers and Sages. I'm super excited to be here today with my friend Danielle Krimer. Danielle, I know through the 500 Yoga Teacher Training Program, and wow, what a gift it is to have her in my life and in my circle of love. And she's just a beautiful, beautiful soul with an incredible gift to share. So she's here today to tell her story and to talk to us a little bit about her passion project and what she's bringing forward into the world. And I think the time is right. I think it's one of those kind of taboo conversations. I haven't even said the topic yet. Like on the edge of your seat.
Right. Everyone's like, what is this?
The quick seat to $1 million. It's worth $1 million to address the issues of your health and well-being. It really, really is. And every time we come into a place of more ease in our body and more clarity in our mind, it's a ripple out into our lives of good energy and prosperity and harmony of every variety. So listen carefully today. And Danielle, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Tracy. I'm so happy to be here and be in your presence again. It's been a while. It's been since November. So this is a real treat for me. So
yeah, we had a little jump and squeal like a sorority sister reunion.
Right.
In the lobby. Had to be so excited. So yes. So tell us about your project and what you're bringing forward and how you are working so hard to kind of break through some of the barriers and to bring a conversation into the world at this time.
Okay, so I created Moontime Yoga, and really what that is, it's period yoga. Mm-hmm. So when I was 8 years old, I started my period, and that was a very traumatic experience for me. I was in 3rd grade, and you start freaking out because you don't really understand what's going on, and you're wearing these pads and you're having cramps and you have to leave your classroom because your cramps are so bad. So there was so much that I didn't quite understand, and of course my mom and my sister, they were wonderful, but when you're 8, it's a really hard thing to reconcile in your brain. And then
I think, if I could just interrupt you,
yeah,
what really touches my heart about that is you had no clue what was going on. Like 8 is usually before mothers prepare their daughters for that, definitely before the school programs are introduced. So your peers didn't know,
no,
you didn't know, really, really blindsided.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point. I didn't have that education. So when it happened, it was, all kind of like my mom and my sister, all hands on deck. How do we figure this out? And I'll never forget the second time that I started. I was in my class in 3rd grade, and I had such bad cramps, and I didn't understand what that was. Like, I wasn't talked to about cramps, and it hurt so bad that I took my teacher out into the hall. I had to tell her face. I mean, she was mortified. I had to go home, lay down. And then from then on, it's like every month since then, I've had, the most debilitating cramps. It prevented me from going to basketball camps and hanging out with friends, all kinds of things. And it just really, I kind of felt like it defined who I was.
Well, Danielle, that's like the trauma. Like, I picture you as like this little girl walking the hall. 3rd graders are short and teachers are tall.
Sure.
And, through no fault, of course, to your teacher, but when you look in her face and you tell her what's going on and the shock comes over her face, then that's not a reassuring feeling. That's like the whole message was something's wrong with this, something's out of whack here.
Right.
This is totally normal.
Right. And that's how I felt. Like, who could I talk to? Yeah. Like I said, there was my sister. My sister was 10 years older than me. So it wasn't like we were, talking about periods at that time. My mom, of course, was there, but it was just hard for me. Like, I didn't have any friends who were going through it. I remember, these giant pads that I would wear with the pink wrapper, and I would, put it in my sleeve and carry it to the bathroom, just because I didn't want anyone to know. So, fast forward to now, I'm 40 years old, and I was in Tracy's 500-hour training, the best training ever. I can just do a little plug there, best experience of my life. But our project was to picked a service and something that we could offer with yoga. And that was like our final project. And I sat there and I really thought, like, what can I offer to the yoga, well, to the community, that something that like I know, like I can, that I've experienced. And I just had this aha moment, like, oh my gosh, I have awful periods, and I have ever since I was 8. This is what I know. Let me help people with yoga, you know, who have these same symptoms or struggles or just whatever.
Danielle, 40 years old minus when you were 8,
Yeah.
32 years.
I think about that a lot, and sometimes I just, like, I'm almost mad at myself because I feel like, what took you so long? But at the same time, I think it's almost like you're blinded to it. And one of the things you hit on earlier is that, you know, we don't really talk about it. You know, I talk with my girlfriends about all kinds of things. We rarely talk about periods. And it's interesting because we talk about everything else. And what do we all experience? I mean, periods. I remember reading this stat, and it was from 2018, so I'm sure it's changed, but at any given time, 800 million women are menstruating. Wow, that's a lot of women. That is a lot of conversations that aren't being had.
Right, right. And I think that one of the most powerful things that you're doing through this, there are a number that really flash in front of my face, but one of the most powerful things is to break down the taboo about this conversation,
right,
and to provide some welcoming space. You know, whether your periods are problematic for you or not.
Right. And that's actually it too. It's, you know, I created Moontime for women who, yes, you know, if you're struggling, you're suffering, but just for women in general. I mean, we're going through these periods, and maybe you don't have cramps, and maybe you don't have, you know, 7 days of, you know, bleeding, but your body changes, and inevitably your body is going through something. So Moontime doesn't just focus on, you know, the menstruation phase. It's all of the phases. So it really is like this, this like all-encompassing approach. So when you work on all your phases, it's overall just makes, you know, your reproductive system better, like, you know, your body healthy.
My guess is like there would be some benefit through like the conversation of fertility.
Exactly.
Around this too, like
yes, absolutely.
Like a body that is able to kind of cycle and have the hormone, which is your endocrine system. And so Kundalini yoga, all about like the endocrine system, the nervous system, the systems of the body that maybe we don't always put at the front of the fitness conversation, but really do have an impact on how our cycles flow and how we're able to function and access what we want in lives, whether it's, you know, just being comfortable enough to go to work in the morning,
right,
not being, you know, stuck at home
right
every month, or being able to conceive when you would like to.
And I think that's a good point that you made, you know, our systems working. One of the trainings that I took for this was Tiffany Cruikshanks from Yoga Medicine had a women's health training. It was wonderful. And Yoga Medicine looks at, you know, yoga and the body from more of a Chinese medicine perspective. So it's looking at your body as a whole, not just like, oh, I've got cramps, you know, I've got cramps here and here. It's like, what else is going on in your body? How can we work with the other things? I mean, there are so many symptoms that you might not even realize.
Our symptoms,
right. So it's, like I said, you might not have the cramps, but your body is going through something. And so Moontime really is for any woman who's menstruating. And, you know, it's never too early. Like, I wish I had this when I was growing up, and my mom said the same thing. She said, I wish this was around when I was going through my period.
Is there a name or a tag label for what you experience? Can we swing back to your personal story? Can you tell us, like, what have you discovered in terms of the medical community's understanding about periods that are so significant? And I know that I've heard your story before, so I have this like, whoa, about the significance, because I've heard a lot, but maybe a little bit more of that share so that people can kind of get the picture of what you've lived through.
Well, I have, I've gone to the doctors, gone to several different doctors and regular, medical doctors. I got a gynecologist, and it's always, let's put you on the pill. Let's, put you on birth control. And that's really the only conversations that I've ever experienced. And to the point where it makes me feel like, less than, or like they don't want to listen to me because I'm not willing to get on the pill.
So you never tried that strategy?
No.
Okay.
I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. For me personally, I didn't want to mess with that in my body. So I just felt like, there has to be something more. And really it was either the pill or here's some naproxen. So here it's like a anti-inflammatory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like an NSAID. So that's what is in NSAIDs are in like Midol and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's supposed to help with the cramps.
I want to ask other questions.
Right.
Someone out there didn't know.
No, that's fair. That's fair. So, I would take that for the cramps, and it's like, okay, but what about the mental issues that I'm going through? And, I haven't even touched on that part. This also came into play. So for me personally, about the week before I start my period, I get very irritable, very depressed, to the point where it's almost like I don't even recognize like who I am. Mm-hmm. And that's a really hard thing to admit. I feel pretty vulnerable right now admitting that, but I think it needs to be said because when I have opened up about this, I have other women say, oh my gosh, that happens to me too.
Yeah. And there's so much, oh my goodness, I'm just getting chills because I feel like this is so deep in our culture. It goes back past our mothers and our grandmothers and our great grandmothers. This like goes so far back to the beginning of our tribe. Mm-hmm. Where we through the years have lost that companionship with ourselves, mm-hmm. and where through the years we've been asked to mask how we feel, mm-hmm. and who we are and how we're doing. Mm-hmm. So it's always putting on the face.
Yes.
And so that's like a lot of years of like putting on the face and like kind of muscling ourselves around the depression, mm-hmm. around the irritability,
right?
Like, don't let anyone see it. Don't let anyone know. Am I being nice enough to cover up the fact that I kind of want to slug someone?
That's exactly it. And
it's exhausting.
It's so exhausting. And I mean, your body already is going through some stuff. So of course you're already just mentally and physically drained. But yeah, on top of that, it's like, have a smile and act like everything's okay.
I don't want to lose this job. I can't jeopardize this relationship. I'm just getting to know him.
And that actually, so I was reading about this, and it's called PMDD, and it's premenstrual dysmorphic disorder.
Okay, so that's the tag for the.
Yeah. So
say it again for me.
Predysmorphic disorder, premenstrual dysmorphic disorder, PMDD. So whereas PMS is, the mood swings and irritability and stuff like that, PMDD is like that, but times like 1,000.
Yeah. And
this is what I started reading about actually this year, and for my project was, the way that they diagnose you is if you have 5 of these like 15 symptoms, and the symptoms are, severe irritability, that so much that it affects your relationships, suicidal thoughts, severe depression, anxiety, all these things. And I have to say, like, I've experienced all of those things.
Mm-hmm. And I know, especially in my 20s, my sense of reality would swing.
Yes.
Like when I was PMS in that window of time, I would say, okay, this needs to go, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. And then my period would start and I'd be like, what are you doing? Everything's fine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, and that cycle was just, maybe it was impossible to get a grip on. Maybe I just kind of outgrew it, but
and it's scary when you go through it by yourself.
We don't talk about that.
And we don't talk about that. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh. Like, it's when you see it in front of you, like, you feel it. I felt it my whole life, and I never could put my finger on it. Yeah. And then you see it in front of you, and it's just like, it's a smack in the face. And now I've been talking about it with whoever will listen to me about this. I talk to my friends about it. I tell my husband, like, I track my periods, I track my cycle, I track my PMS. So I know, like, I wake up and I honestly can tell, like, I feel a little irritated today. And I tell my husband, hey, I'm PMSing, just so you know, like, and it's crazy. I'm not even gonna use that word. As silly as you might think that is, to tell the people around you, the close people around you who you talk to every day, that, hey, I'm PMSing, that's not silly. Like, these are the conversations that we need to have, because then it can like open these channels of communication that are really being blocked right now. And it's so freeing to be able to admit to this, to the camera, to you that,
Yeah.
I had all these thoughts. I almost ruined relationships, and maybe I did in the past because of that. Like,
Well, and I think when we're masking and we've got like this whole armor built up so that we can be nice to people, even if we feel like we're not feeling very nice today. And because we don't trust ourselves, it's really hard to trust a body that fluctuates like that.
Right.
And a brain that's swinging around like that.
Right.
And it's not like, I feel so heartbroken when I hear people say, I try. And I'm like, oh, sweetie,
Right.
like I'm trying, but like none of the solutions can get in either.
Right. That's actually a really good point.
Like, so once you start talking about it, and like you and I have a dialogue, and we can kind of be honest, and we can let down some of the guard, all of a sudden, like, bing, 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 I see like things I can do. Like, you have a nice long list now of things you can do.
Right. And I've just been adding to it, sometimes for me, it's just sitting on my meditation pillow and just taking a few deep breaths, putting my hands on my knees, getting grounded, and just, inhales and exhales. Sometimes it's sitting up against the wall, sitting on my meditation pillow and having my back up against the wall and like feeling something. So it's honestly, it's so many things, and there are so many things that you can do. And that's, again, why I created Moontime, because I want there to be hope, more than anything.
Yeah.
And
well, you've done some really significant research around this topic, and PMDD. So when you do the research, we're going to talk about some of the strategies, like some of the simple little things.
Sure.
And I know that you talked about like the cycle and knowing your cycle and knowing which phase of the cycle you're in,
right.
And how important that is. Before we get deeper into that, when you read about it, is there anything that Western medicine or other kinds of naturopathic or traditional Chinese medicines offer?
That's a great question. And the things that I found was basically, like for the cramps and for the PMS and stuff like that, they were saying to, you can take Tylenol, you can go for a walk. One of the things suggested like yoga, that was like at the very bottom, but it was always at the top, like pills. Pills was like not always at the top.
That's kind of gonna be the way.
Right. And for the PMDD, it's hard because it's not really understood right now.
Okay.
And they're saying that they think, I believe it was like 3 to 5 or 3 to 8% of women experience this. And I say that that's BS, just based on the women who I've talked to about this. I think more women experience it, they just don't admit it. And that's okay. I mean, we're all on our own journey here.
Well, and you could just feel so automatically defeated.
Sure, of course.
And another thing about this automatically defeated is that when we go into that position of there's nothing they can do anyway, then we're anchoring in a belief that keeps us from improving and changing.
That's true.
And so, these ways that we barrier and kind of prevent ourselves from discovering, I think they're really important to recognize, because you're putting something out there that's a new topic. It's hard to talk about.
Right.
And I really just want everyone to feel encouraged and supported, that if you're courageous enough to peek your head out, someone is here ready to grab you. And
yes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like I've lived it. I've experienced pretty much every kind of awful symptom that you can experience with periods. So if I can help just one person, I feel like I've done my job. But when I say something like 800 million women at any given time, to me, that's like, I just want to grab everyone and say like, let me help you. So it's really like, I'm just here and I'm waiting and I want to have conversations and I want, women to feel like they can come to me and trust that, I've got you. And if I think a lot of times too, people don't want to come to that group setting and are a little afraid to have those conversations with a group. And I understand that because, part of what I want to do is build this community, but it's not for everyone.
Right.
And that's why I also offer, individual services. So, you can come to me directly and it can be one-on-one and I can be that like person who you go to when you want to talk about this stuff. So, and that's the thing too, like some women just want to talk.
Right.
Right. And, share war stories, and I'm here for that.
And the talking about it helps. It brings it up into the frontal lobe, and that's how we disintegrate some of our barriers.
Right.
So if I'm disintegrating my barriers, like I'm coming out, okay, I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to open up my beliefs to the fact that this can be improved, it can be helped, and I'm going to open up to the fact that maybe I don't have to fake it and pretend anymore, that I've been putting a little too much energy into that, and I'd rather see some of my energy going into strategies that can relieve my struggles.
Right.
I'm going to sit and breathe for a few breaths.
Yeah, so one of the things that I like to do, so when you're menstruating, so this is a good example, when you're menstruating, it's, especially for women who have really bad cramps like me, I know this sounds counterintuitive, but you've got to get moving. So a lot of times what we call is like blood stagnation. So, you've got this cramping because the blood is just like not coming out the way that it needs to. So you have to move around. And that could just be like taking walks or, doing something like that, but just sitting still really isn't going to benefit you. But that's one thing.
So maybe cat-cow?
Yeah, so cat-cow actually I think would be really good for your cramps. You just want to make sure you don't get too, like sometimes people overcompensate, they try to do the like crazy arches and the crazy dips. It's too much.
Just gentle.
Very, very gentle.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think, like what movements would be gentle?
Yeah, so that's, I like that. I also like, so if I'm not, moving, because sometimes too, it's like, I know I should be doing something, maybe I'll walk around the block, I just want to sit.
Yeah.
So what I do is I take like a blanket or my meditation pillow and I sit on it. And so right now it gives me like some pressure off of my abdomen and my pelvis. So I can just, it like takes some of that pressure off. And so I sit up against a wall and sometimes I'll take blocks too and have like, my arms just kind of like this. And what's great too is I get like the low back pain. So I can take a block and I can just twist like that. And it just gives me a little bit of like.
Interesting. Can I grab a couple blocks?
Sure. Yes, please do.
Okay.
Please do.
I'm just going to like bring forward.
Yeah.
Step down behind you.
Great. Thank you. So what I like to do is, so like I said, I'm sitting up against the wall and I might just have my blocks out like this, my spine's nice and tall, but it just takes a little bit of pressure off. And then what I like to do also is I just give a little twist. So I just hold the block here and I'm just twist and it like stretches that low back because that's like, I get a lot of pain back there. And what I also like to do after that, it's like, so you put your legs out and, you can stretch it that way too. And one of the tips I would give is self-massage is really important. So that is like a huge tip just in life, when you're in these poses. I mean, just rubbing your thighs, because like my thighs ache really bad when this happens. So rubbing your thighs. And then like, rubbing your feet. So one of the people who I was studying was Gita Iyengar. And she was saying that, we don't pay enough attention to our, like that massage when we're menstruating, because we just feel so closed off, like my body is going through, I can't do anything. It's like, no, I mean, you really, as much as you can, try to relax and, massage that stuff out. Just do a little stretching, just any kind of movement, you know. What we don't want to do is the crazy like inversions, like when we're menstruating, we want the energy to come down. You know?
Gotcha.
We don't want to do like upside down. For that.
Right, and I mean, we're thinking about like the fluids in the blood
Right.
kind of, you know, coming down.
Right.
But also like the subtle energy and the pranic energy, like to all flush.
Exactly.
And so this would be, first of all, self-massage is a beautiful gift to give yourself.
It really is.
Like self-love is get fuel in the gas tank.
Right.
So like just say thank you, legs.
Yeah.
And just say, I'm just gonna, you know, and feel yourself just bringing the energy down to your feet.
Yeah.
Probably is gonna help that elimination.
And that's exactly it. And that's something that I've never really done before. But you know, I think when you start taking your yoga teacher training, you just develop this relationship with your body that, well, at least for me personally, that I had never really had before.
Right.
So now it's like, I feel like you can't count on anyone but yourself, so you better get in there, you know, and like rub yourself and, you know, do the things that help. And I mean, it's just so beneficial.
Well, and my guess is that like the belief system, like the bracing and the masking that we do a lot of self-loathing when you have bad periods. Like I hate myself, I hate this time, I hate being a woman, I hate like when is menopause?
Right.
You know, we just have, it's another way that we attack ourselves as women.
That's a good point.
Any of that little bit of self-love, because there's no solution in that.
Right. And I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I am so bad about that. Like, you know, I come up here and I talk and I have all these great things, but you know, you're always your own worst critic. So I do those things, you know, I'm not good enough. What am I doing here? I can't do this, this, and this. And then you just let your mind go, and then it's like, you know, so I'm just like, stop that. So this usually happens when I'm PMSing those thoughts. So what I'll do is, one of the things I like to do actually is just sit and sit like this in a meditative position. And I do little mantras, like self-love mantras. So on the inhale, I might, you know, say in my head, like, I appreciate, and then on the exhale, my body, you know, just something simple like that. And then like repeat that over and over, because really, yes, some of the things really are awful when you go through, but we're women, and that's incredible. And it's such a beautiful thing that, like, I'm trying to think about this now as like, we are just these beautiful beings who go through this every month, and our bodies are meant to give life, and that's pretty incredible. And so to have a different relationship with your body, and essentially, you know, I'm basically asking you to rethink how you think about your period. And it's tough, especially, you know, like I said, it's been a long time for me, and like I still struggle with it, but I'm getting better. Like the more I practice what I preach, essentially, like the easier I'm finding just navigating all the different things. And again, like just talking about it is very helpful.
We're so desperate, you know, for like the cure-all pill.
Yeah.
Like, come on, Danielle.
I wish I had it.
Seriously, Danielle, sitting and breathing, that's all you've got today.
Right.
Like, you know, it's like Google again.
Right.
Take another training. Like, we just want to, it's not going to be that way.
Right.
It's just going to be a moment by moment practice, the way yoga is.
Exactly.
And compassion for ourselves.
Right.
And clarity and honesty.
Clarity
all
and
the things
honesty.
you said.
Yeah, and I think it's a slow process. Like, you know, nothing is really a cure-all, but it's, can you commit to this? Can you commit to tracking your cycle and really being responsible for that? And knowing when you're kind of, you know, dipping a little, and like, what's your energy level? What's your mood level? Like, even knowing that, and letting the people know around you, like that is going to help so much. And yeah, like the breathing, of course, breathing, you know, that's all we ever talk about really with yoga. Like that's the most important thing, but so many people don't do it. So it's like, it's a reminder, you know, you have to keep breathing. Like sometimes like I forget that I haven't really taken a deep breath that day. And it's like, oh my gosh, I haven't even taken a deep breath. And when I do, I'm like, what am I, like, I should have been taking deep breaths as soon as I woke up. So it's,
And the time's gonna pass anyway.
Right.
You're gonna be here anyway.
Right.
You're gonna be here either complaining about your period, feeling miserable,
Right.
or you're gonna be here sitting and taking 3 deep breaths, feeling a little crazy, but giving it a go.
Right.
So I find, like, for my own self-talk is like, come on, Tracy, like, come on, like,
Yeah.
don't spend the time on the negative aspect of it. Just one simple strategy. It's not gonna fix it, but it's gonna make it a little bit easier.
Right.
And, you know, little by little, incrementally.
Yeah, well, and that's the beauty of what yoga has to offer, and what, you know, I offer with Moontime. You know, one of the things are just like workshops. So, you know, a 2-hour workshop, and we talk about the different phases, certain things you can do. We talk about different symptoms, because it's not just cramps and it's not just irritability. You know, it's like headaches, or, you know, nausea, or whatever it is. You know, those are the things that we can talk about. There's just like restorative poses and yin poses and different journal prompts and mudras, you know, hand gestures. So there's just so much that yoga has to offer, that I just think, like, why not? Why not try it?
Right.
Why not?
Right.
It's harmless. It's harmless.
It's harmless.
Yes.
And it's, I don't know, it's much more life affirming.
Right.
Yeah. So where can we find you?
Well, you can find me, so right now, like, I don't have a social media presence. I'm currently working on creating like a Moontime yoga group on Facebook. So it won't just be like me posting everything. It's like, I want to create this group where, you know, all us women can share different things that we're going through, and just really to have a community. Because I think for me, the community is really what's the most important thing. So I would love all of us to just get on there and start sharing.
Support each other.
And support each other. And right now I have, you know, I'm going to different little flea markets right now, or excuse me, tomorrow I'm going to Olmsted Falls and doing one there. I have a workshop at Circle of Life in Olmsted Falls on June 19th from 1 to 3.
We'll post it below.
Yeah.
June 19th.
June 19th. And then also I can give you my contact information, because, you know, I have business cards, and I'm just kind of old school right now. I think that, you know, these conversations are best had in person. So I really think that, you know, finding me somewhere, or I'll find you, you know, we'll connect somehow that works for everyone. And right now, like, that's how I'm doing that.
The contact information for Danielle will be underneath the video.
Great.
And you can check her out on June 19th at Circle of Life, which is in
Olmsted Falls.
Yeah. And she will be at Studio 108, because our community needs someone like this, contributing to the well-being of everyone as well, and just generating some compassionate services and solutions for really a problem that has been, I don't know, not underappreciated, right?
Yeah.
This is the time. I mean, this is the time when we can really take a deep breath and see things as they are, and receive the help and the connection and the support that we need, so that we can serve. Because, you know, like, we are too brilliant, girls. You're way too brilliant to lose a week every month. So
that's how I feel. Like, it's, you know, it doesn't have to knock us down. I mean, it certainly will try to knock us down. But if we have a supportive community, and like little tips and tricks, you know, that we learn along the way, and like learn together, that's really what it's all about. And then
there can be an ebb and flow.
Right.
There can be an ebb and flow. There can be a dip.
Yes.
But it doesn't have to be like, you know, you're totally knocked out of your game.
Right.
So
right.
we'll find that sweet spot.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Danielle.
This is great.
This
is so great.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for following, and we'll see you soon.